This election day, more than 6 million Americans will be unable to vote because of felony convictions on their records. More than a quarter of them live in Florida, where 1.6 million people, about 10% of the state's voting age population, have been convicted of a felony. Florida is one of only 4 states whose constitutions permanently bar people with such convictions from voting. But a new measure on Florida's November ballot may bring a change and an opportunity for some with felony convictions to gain back a basic civil right, the right to vote. NewsHour Weekend's Yvette Feliciano has the story.
Demetrius Jafunza never thought he would find himself in prison. He says that growing up in Sarasota, Florida, he was an average kid with a supportive family.
So you see how you switched it? You had 10 plus 5 here.
But as he grew older, he started hanging out with a tough crowd. When he was 17, he and 3 of his friends held up a fast food restaurant at gunpoint.
So now.
Did you have a moment before going into it where you thought, I shouldn't do this?
Yeah, actually, there were many moments like that. It was one of those trying to be something that you're not. I knew this wasn't me or whatever the case was, but I did not want to seem that I was the weak one. I needed some type of reputation or something like that. Some type of acceptance.
Jafunza eventually told his mother, who happened to be a police officer. He pleaded no contest to armed robbery, and though he was a minor when he committed the crime, he was sentenced as an adult to almost 4 years in prison, plus 2 years probation. Now 41, Jafunza has turned his life around. He's married with 3 children and works as a paralegal. He's also a pastor at his local church and is working on his master's degree in mental health. But he still faces difficulties because of his 1996 conviction. A recent job offer he received was put on hold because of it. He can't legally serve on a jury or hold public office, and there is one other right denied to him: voting.
When I walk through that front door and I look at my 3 kids, I can't fight for them using my voice. I can't cast a vote on anything. The school board election, where my children go, I can't decide who's going to be their school board.
Florida's disenfranchisement law dates back to just after the Civil War, when the state rewrote its constitution.
Florida's 1865 Constitution ended slavery, but it retained the provisions prohibiting African Americans from voting.
Myrna Perez is the director of the Voting Rights and Elections Project at NYU Law School's Brennan Center for Justice. It advocates nationally for justice system reform and voting rights, including the re-enfranchisement of felony offenders. Perez says that while Florida's 1868 Constitution allowed African Americans to vote, the state's legislators also found ways to deny them that right.
They expanded who could be disenfranchised and imposed a felony disenfranchisement in the Constitution. The second thing they did was they expanded the specific list of crimes that would get one disenfranchised to include the crime of larceny.
The point, says Perez, was to make voting illegal for those who committed crimes the legislators associated with newly freed slaves, such as vagrancy and petty larceny.
Those 2 things together virtually reinforced the prohibition on African American voting.
100 years later, Florida removed the language specifying types of lesser crimes that would bar a person from voting. But it still denies anyone convicted of a felony, be it as serious as murder or as relatively minor as possession of marijuana, from voting for life. But all of that could change this November when Floridians vote on a ballot measure called Amendment 4. If passed, it would automatically restore voting rights to all felony offenders who have completed their sentences, except those convicted of murder or a sexual offense. The amendment has national bipartisan backing. It's supported by the Brennan Center, as well as progressive groups like the ACLU and the League of Women Voters. It's also endorsed by conservative groups like the Christian Coalition and Freedom Partners, which also advocates for lower corporate taxes and entitlement reform. Some local organizations are for it as well, including the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. The organization, which receives funding from groups like the Ford Foundation and the Alliance for Safety and Justice, is led by people with felony convictions. They refer to themselves as returning citizens.
We come from a place of understanding these issues personally.
Neil Volz, the group's political director, is a former Republican congressional staffer and lobbyist. In 2006, he pleaded guilty in a congressional bribery case and received a felony conviction for conspiracy.
We fight the good fight on behalf of the million-plus family members and friends and directly impacted people in the state of Florida who know firsthand what it's like to walk around with a felony conviction and try and get a job or try and get housing or any of the collateral consequences that ultimately come along with a sentence like that.
What would it mean to have your voting rights restored?
I mean, for me, it would be the ability to be a full citizen in my community.
Does your mom still use drugs?
Currently, returning citizens must apply to Florida's Clemency Board in order to have their rights restored.
You got a lot of domestic violence stuff.
But critics argue that convincing that board is an onerous process. Before they can apply for clemency, those with felony convictions must wait 5 to 7 years after they've completed their sentence, including prison time and probation. Then, they must file a written application to the Clemency Board, which consists of only 4 people, the governor and 3 cabinet members. It has a backlog of over 10,000 cases, but the process doesn't end there. Many applicants must appear in person before the board, which meets only 4 times a year and can arbitrarily decide whether or not to approve an application. Florida's Republican Governor Rick Scott heads the board.
There's absolutely no standards, so we can make any decisions we want.
During the hearing, the board can ask an applicant any question on any subject.
When's the last time you had a drink? How many children do you have?
6.
How many different mothers to those children? Y'all go to church? You ever go take your parents to dinner?
In Governor Rick Scott's first 7 years in office, only about 3,000 out of more than 30,000 applicants regained their voting rights. By contrast, his predecessor restored the rights of more than 155,000. In order to change that process, Amendment 4 needs to win with more than 60% of the vote. A recent poll by the University of North Florida shows that 71% of likely voters support the amendment, including 83% of Democrats and 62% of Republicans. But not everyone is on board.
We think that this proposed change is bad policy.
Richard Harrison is a Florida attorney and the executive director of Floridians for a Sensible Voting Rights Policy, a privately funded nonprofit which advocates in favor of Florida's disenfranchisement law.
You've got to go through the process, and you've got to convince the Clemency Board and the governor that you've really changed your life around.
A person's right to vote has been a political football, where your right to vote can depend upon who's in office and what they feel like that day. Part of the beauty of the amendment is that it sets forth a clear standard that people understand, that doesn't have to deal with whim or discretion, but will actually be an across-the-board applied rule.
But Richard Harrison says a single clear standard is exactly what's wrong with the amendment.
It makes no distinction. It doesn't treat that property crime any differently than somebody who shoots a liquor store clerk in a robbery. It says we're going to treat you exactly the same, and that doesn't make sense to us, and I don't think it makes sense to most reasonable people.
This amendment includes exclusions for people who have murder convictions as well as people who have violent sexual felonies. But it's built on this concept that when a debt is paid, it's paid. When somebody's able to reconnect with their community quickly, they're much less likely to reoffend. So you can see that on studies done by the right, studies done by the left, studies done in the middle.
A 2012 study in the University of California at Berkeley's La Raza Law Journal supports this argument. It estimates that prisoners in states that restore voting rights after release are about 10% less likely to reoffend. But recidivism is far from the only issue. There are political considerations too. In fact, Harrison says that Amendment 4 is a political ploy to upend Florida's famously divided electorate.
If there's 1.5 million convicted felons in Florida, and in November, the day after the election, they're suddenly all qualified to vote, well, that's 1.5 million new potential voters. Everybody on both sides of this issue seems to agree that that universe of new voters, if they actually go out and register, are probably going to be more inclined registration-wise, to favor the Democratic Party.
What data is there to support that?
None. None. But,
May I ask, 'cause
everybody seems to agree. I haven't heard anybody suggest that, that universe of people are really a bunch of, potential Republicans.
Neil Volz, a conservative, disagrees.
The truth is, I'm a 20-plus year conservative Republican. I bring that up not to make an issue of it, but to actually not make an issue of it. This issue isn't about politics. It's about people. It's about, whether someone can vote and not how they vote. When a debt is paid, it's paid.
If Amendment 4 passes, 2018 would be the last year in which Floridians like Demetrius Jafunza would be turned away from the ballot box. He applied to have his rights restored 16 years ago in 2002.
What has been the movement on your application?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Not a thing.
Not a word, not even a phone call. I made a mistake when I was 17 years old. I'm home now. I've accomplished many, many things. I have a loving family. I'm doing everything that's required of me, and I beat all the statistics.